Welcome to a guest episode of the NERO Show featuring pro mechanic Edwin Britz.
He's cracked his bike, and so he's got to go shopping for a new one. We chat through some of his options and what he's looking for in his next bicycle.
Are modern day bikes an absolute disaster to try and service, we ask?
Chris gives us a play-by-play of his Peaks 2025 performance.
All right, let's get into it.
Snap the lab in half. Gornskis.
He's done.
The Cannondale.
It's over.
The Lab 71.
Things you do for social media. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
It's paid off at a good 3.4 million views for that lab snap.
And now you get to go bike shopping.
Exactly, yeah.
You've got a short list. Now, interesting situation as well, because we've got Edwin, the cache manager. So you've got all the connections through the store. Cache is a store here in Australia, a big bike store. Then you've got Edwin, the team rider / being involved with a Conti team here in Australia. And so sponsorship there. And then you've got just you as a bike lover that might want to get something else. So can we chat through what your options are? Probably maybe through each of those avenues and what we're tossing up here?
Yeah, exactly. So there's definitely like three completely conflicting sides, basically. So the team that I ride for, we're all sponsored by Giant, and they've helped us out greatly and given us a great deal on Propels. And pretty much most of the boys at the moment are riding the Propel. And then for the past couple of weeks, Chris has kind of lent me his TCR to ride. So I've had a little bit of a taste of what the Giants are like to actually like properly ride them in anger, not just like testing out a new bike that I built. Although I do also have, the ability to sort of choose my own bike, and working at Cache, I have, quite a few options, quite a few different brands to look at. And I do have a few bikes that I've mentioned here that would be like sort of money is no object, like dream bikes. Or at least like things that are really like piquing my interest currently.
So, I mean, why not the Propel? What's the go? Because you still have to pay for it, right? You don't.
Well, So like all the riders pretty much have to at least put in a little bit of money for their own bikes. That is great because then riders do get to own their own bikes. Riding Chris's TCR, I've sort of maybe got a little bit of apprehension around the Propel. I just find that it's a little bit too stiff and it's not very comfortable, and I find the geometry is a bit old school. It's a bit weird. Really short wheelbase, short chain stays, just like super steep seat angle, just really aggressive low riding position as well. And for me, I kind of find that that's like having ridden something like the Super 6 Evo, which is a bit more of a modern geometry, like a bit more short but also upright in the head tube, like a bit more relaxed. I find that I ride better in that position. And like there's a really good account on Instagram. His name's Arne Peters. I don't know if you've seen him. He's a bike rider who used to race quite a lot, and then now he's like making his own bike brand. And anyway,
how Edwin doesn't listen to the show? We basically
not every episode.
The last 3 weeks, I think Arne Peters has made it.
He's come up. Yeah, Arne Peters.
Yeah.
Listen, like, you know the drill. Like, that's like a really good example, like scientific testing of how position really like can improve your riding. And I find the Giant geometry sort of kind of goes against that. But you have bikes like the Defy, which are actually sort of more aligned with that kind of new school geometry, but they're just not really like, they haven't got any racing features.
Yeah,
but that's what makes the TCR famous, isn't it? It's that like, just chuck it around, it accelerates well.
Yeah.
That's kind of what made the TCR what it is.
Yeah.
It's just potentially not where people are going.
Exactly. I feel like currently, like, especially in like the last 3 years, that kind of more new school, upright, taller bike has got a lot of traction, and you see a lot of frame manufacturers, they're bringing out bikes that are sort of a little bit more, like along that line. They're more comfortable to ride over those distances.
I don't want to derail you too much because I want to keep going through the list. But what's stopping you, apart from aesthetics, just putting more spaces under the Propel? Will that eventually affect the ride quality of it if you're talking about that position that you're trying to optimize?
Exactly. Like it doesn't really like, obviously aesthetically it's not great. And you look at a lot of the guys on Jayco Alula as well. That's kind of
what I was leaning towards.
You look at their bikes and hardly any of them are slammed. Most of the guys actually have quite a few spaces. Like Luke Plapp's bike has a couple of spaces. Luke Durbridge, I mean, they're both like slightly bigger riders, but still, you know, most of the guys are running a little bit of stack there. They're not slamming them because the head tubes on those propellers are pretty small.
Yeah.
And then riding one slammed to be a bit of a mission. But also like just the overall ride feel of that sort of frame, that sort of monocoque, like integrated seat post.
Yep.
You would know,
Yep.
Chris, having ridden one, it's a stiff bike.
Yep.
It's unforgiving, is like truly unforgiving, even more so than like an S5,
Yep.
I find.
Yeah. Do you find the TCR less comfortable, less compliant than the S5?
Less compliant, but that's, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Interesting.
but that's almost,
Like you would not guess that from looking at them.
Yeah, exactly.
but that's almost its party trick. Like its party trick is that snappiness, that nimbleness, but it's not a characteristic that I appreciate.
But it's not like you can't have
No,
the
I know.
snappiness
Yeah.
and also
Yeah.
like no comfort. You can
Yeah.
have at least somewhat of both. Like the Super 6 is a good example. That's a snappy bike that is also incredibly comfortable. And I mean, even like the S-Works Atheos, that's like a super snappy bike and it's very comfortable, but it's sort of geared more towards that kind of riding. You don't have to have like a crazy stiff, like, you know, not unrideable, but just very, very stiff bike and then also not comfortable at all. You can have a bit of both.
So the thing with the Propel is more the ride quality of it because the position is a thing, but you can just run more spaces.
Yeah.
It's more, you probably feel like it's a bit too stiff,
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I like having ridden really stiff aero bikes, say like the System 6, High Mod, S5, those kind of bikes. After a big day, you feel it the next day. You are cooked. Like not just in your legs, like in your actual body. Your back is sore, your neck's sore, your arms are sore, and it like it's difficult to back up. But something that's a little bit more, I guess, almost endurance focused. You can back up. You can, you know, hold a fast position and still ride at a good speed, and also do the same thing the next day. Yeah.
Okay. So Keisha bringing in, obviously they sell bikes. What's Keish stocking that you could potentially get? Can we chat through them? I know that they're doing Factor, they're doing Colnagos, Pinarellos.
BMC.
BMC, yeah.
I mean, I'm guessing there's a budget restraint.
There's certainly a budget restraint. I can't just go out buying a Lab 71 whenever I, you know, break one in half, unfortunately.
Okay.
I wish I could because it's such a great bike. But yeah, I've got a few. This is in no particular order. But as far as carbon bikes go, as like a direct Cannondale replacement, if I had no obligations, this is probably what I would ride. The Dogma F 2025, the BMC Team Machine R, and the Colnago Y1R. And all for sort of different reasons, but also similar reasons as well. They're all somewhat hard to find. Not a lot of people are riding them. You don't really see them very often. I'm always interested in bikes that not, you know, too many people are on or are riding.
Out of those, you can kind of drill down on the Dogma and the BMC. Won't you find the same sort of geometry issues that you were potentially going to find on the Giants?
They both are pretty like classical in terms of like very low and like reasonably long. At least with Pinarello, they have really granular sizing.
That's true.
They have like half sizes. So you can get like a 54.5 or you can get like a 56.5. Like not many brands offer this. Yeah, so you can get really like granular sizing. So, you know, for me, I'd probably get something like a 545, which would fix that issue basically. Yep. But with the BMC, absolutely, like yeah, you'd have to, you know, cop a couple of spaces or, you know, just like break your back and run it slammed and look good
I
on
think
Instagram.
if you look at Michael Storer's bike at the moment, he's got like 30 mil under there.
Yeah,
it's phenomenal.
Exactly. Yeah, it is a particularly low bike. I think that is the only like massive downside looking at it from like a geometry perspective. Like, yeah, it's super, it's super low. You have to be pretty flexible and like ready to cop it if you want to run it slammed, or even just run a bigger frame size.
There's 11. I'm on the Dogma listing on Keish. There's 11 sizes.
Yeah,
you can get a 53, 54, 55, 56, 57.5, 59.5, 62. how would you even pick? I feel like that's almost
Yeah.
it almost makes it harder. Like shit, should have got the half size up.
Canyon would call that custom.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a consult. It's definitely a bit of a consult. But like if you're buying a Pinarello, you've probably had one before, or like it's not your first bike. Like you sort of know exactly what you want, I feel, if you're in the market for a Pinarello. Like, yeah, I don't really find many customers going first time, bang, let's get a Dogma F.
Potential issues. First being it's 12,000 Australian dollars and you don't get handlebars
Oh,
for that.
Yeah.
Is that for the frame?
That's for the frame.
yeah.
And that's a pre-order. I know I have heard stories of some pretty good wait times on the Dogmas.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've improved it. That was when they first released the 2025 version. I don't know if it's gotten any shorter, but yeah, that's
It sort of just depends on what's in stock. Like Australia's distribution isn't as big as like Europe, or even other markets like, Asia's distribution as well. We have like a fair bit of stock that comes into the country, but like if someone's after one particular size and one particular color, there might only be like 3-4 frames in the whole country for one colorway and one size. So if you want to get another one, you're going to have to wait ages and ages and ages. But like, I feel like if you are in the market for a Pinarello, you're kind of like you're in for it. You're ready to wait.
Well, I could see you on any of those 3 bikes you just mentioned.
Yeah.
I go, yeah, Edwin,
Can I, before we move on to maybe wheels and packages and stuff, can I just throw a few
We got
other...
more bikes.
Okay.
Well, you got more bikes, don't you?
There's a couple more bikes.
Because there was the Envy, there's Factor, yeah.
Yeah, I've ridden a few Factors and I'm not crash hot on the way they ride. I do think they're like fantastic quality bikes. They're super nice frames and like they are certified quick. I mean, if you look at the Tours magazine, it's fast. But it's maybe potentially not my favorite bike. And also now in Sydney, the scene is going we've transitioned from the S5 era through the Propel era now to the Factor era. So this year, I think 2025 is the year of the Factor. We're going to see
generation.
We're going to see a lot of Factors on the road, and I kind of want to ride something that not a lot of people are riding. So
okay, so there's a big fashion.
Little bit.
Well, he
Yeah.
said that. He said that.
Yeah,
at the beginning.
I like
was-
to have a unique.
That was...
Okay.
I've gone the whole way. I've got a custom-made steel bike on the way, which is
Oh, dear.
Oh,
one
the
of one.
retirement
Oh,
bike.
no.
Great news.
No.
It's a
Great
forever
news.
bike, Chris. It's a
All
forever
right.
bike.
Yeah. You're forever never wet right.
No, I think you need a race bike. I mean, I've seen it's been noticeable at our bunch ride since you've been on the TCR. I can tell you're not doing the same damage. I know
He's
people
doing the same power,
yes,
but he's not doing the same
I know
damage.
people would think I'm making that up. I swear to God, I can tell the difference of just minute. Like how long's the turn? Oh, this isn't quite hurting as much as usual. I can just tell it's just not quite cutting it.
There's a few things. I mean, Chris's bike is a little small, and because it's an ISP, like integrated seat post, I can't get the saddle high enough. But even still, it just isn't quite the same. And like, even the Lab 71, like that wasn't a super fast bike, like in terms of, the current crop of quick bikes. But the position I was in was so
optimized.
comfortable, so optimized that I could put out big numbers or like not even huge numbers, but like, big enough and be really quick on it and be really like sustained.
So you're not in love with the ride feel of the Factor.
Have you ridden the new one though? What's that based on?
I've done a few custom builds for the new Ostro VAM and also the old one. And I find that the newer Factors, they ride super nice. But it's just a little bit too, I don't know. I just feel that it's like a little bit front heavy. Like the front of the bike feels like there's a lot of weight there. Feels like the rear is like maybe like not quite as weighted. You can see it in the frame as well if you just look at how thin the back of the bike is. Still though, it rides nice. It's not bad by any means, and it's a quick bike. But just the handling, the riding, it's just maybe not exactly for me. It feels somewhat removed. But yeah,
Do you mean like because you build them and then take them for a spin?
Exactly.
Okay, so it's not like you've done a full.
I haven't done
full
a full
few weeks.
Yeah,
on them.
full few weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, I can get a pretty decent idea of what something rides like, having just built it. Like a lot of the, say like any of the Dogmas that I've built, I ride that and I'm like, this is great. This is fantastic. And like, if I build like a Super 6 Evo, say, I'll just be like, yeah, this is great. It can sort of tell. Another one that rides really well is the Enve Melee, actually. That's a really nice riding bike. Like it just handles super well. It goes exactly where you want. Similar to like, any Specilaized SL8, SL7, whatever. They just ride immaculately. As soon as you get on them, you're just like, wow, this is what it's supposed to feel. This is what a bike is supposed to feel like.
So is that on your list?
Well, I mean, I can't really get a bike that's not, one that the place like Caish sells.
Okay.
So, and also like having worked in the bike industry, there's no way I'm paying retail for a bike. If we sell it like a equivalent offering, I'm going to go for that because and also to support where I work. I'm not going to.
No, I understand that.
And you can't get the Melee. Like it's a nice bike, but you're too strong for the Enve Melee.
Okay.
It is 1 watt faster than the Super 6 Evo on the Tour's test. The single watt faster.
The newest one. No
it is.
No way.
We're talking about the Enve Melee.
Yeah. The Enve Melee is like 218 and the Super 6 is 210-ish, 209.
I looked at this the other day.
You must have been looking at the old Super 6. All right, so we got the article. The Cannondale Super 6 Evo High Mod 2, 2023. This is with the Cannondale hologram wheels is 207 watts. And then Enve Melee 218 watts. So that's more than 10 watts different. So that's not hair splitting. That's
it's reasonably significant. Yeah.
So I don't care what you think. I'm putting my thoughts onto you, Edwin. So Cannondale's 207 to a magazine tested, and the geometry is good for you, and it's fairly comfortable, right?
Yeah.
Pretty compliant. So if you're going to get another bike, it needs to at least be faster because you don't really need a more comfortable bike, given you're already happy with the comfort of the 207 watt bike that was also pretty light. So yeah, an Enve Melee big downgrade, except for the froth of it.
Yeah, I think they're pretty steezy. They look pretty sick. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, money's always in question.
Mm-hmm.
Like, unfortunately, I can't spend $12,000, $14,000 on a new Dogma Air4 or a new Y1R, which is also piques my interest. That's just, I think that's probably the most out there bike out of the most, like, mainstream brands that's been released recently. And, like, it's been World Tour tested. People have actually ridden it in races. So I'm sure it can handle a couple of fast bunch rides.
It's disgustingly expensive as well.
Disgustingly expensive.
Ask, how much would you be willing to pay for it?
Actually, it's not as expensive as a Dogma.
It's I think off the top of my head, the frames are about 10,900. And then the bars, TBC, we don't know what the bars are.
But you don't have a choice. You order it, and it's integrated bars. There's something that'll be $5,000, thanks. You're like, fuck.
Yeah, you don't have any choice. It's not like you can put a normal stem on a Y1R. It's that's not happening. Maybe AliExpress will have a good option soon. You never know.
So what are you going to do then? We're sitting here going, well, there's good options. None of them you're really interested in.
Your Tavello, mate. That's
See, that's that's the offer that's been floated, because I'm sizing up to the bigger one, and you generally, because you like to have a bit of the higher position, if you just run a bit of a shorter stem, you can. It's like a small 56, right? The geometry of what I was on, and so if you wanted to ride a bike that not many other people are riding, there's a bright,
one there,
garishly orange Tavello you can have a crack
at. It's right there.
Are you going to give it a go? You going to build it up? What's the thoughts?
Well, I think we'll see at the end of this week what I can do, what I can get, what I can decide on. And then, if nothing happens, I think we can give the Tavello a bit of a run for its money, and then I can just build it up for a couple of weeks. And just ride that, and then give Chris back his TCR that he's been wanting for so long.
Yeah. He's desperately wanting the
TCR back.
Is it a like-for-like replacement Cannondale out of the question?
Well, you see, I do love that. As far as I've ridden, that's my favorite riding bike.
You are on the record as having said that.
Love the Super 6 Evo as a platform. Like, even a high mod I would take. Having ridden both, I mean, all levels of the frame, I'm pretty sure high mod is where I would go. Like the Lab 71, obviously, that's something that's really nice. It's a beautiful thing, but is it worth the extra money? Probably only if you want it to say Lab 71. Yeah. I don't think anybody's really going to fight me on that point there. Like, everyone's pretty much...
You did snap it in half, and we did have a look at it. And holy
it's very
shit,
thin.
It's thin.
It's very thin.
That top tube, that is wild.
Yeah.
It's a piece of paper.
Yeah. I would say it's probably no more than about like 4 plies, 5 plies thick, and then like a little bit for paint on top of that. But it's so thin you can sort of see the ripples of the carbon under the paint. It's a very skinny bike, but most climbing frames, like they all have to be that way. Like that's the only way you can get the frame weight down so much is just by reducing material that you're putting into it. So like if we were to cut an S-Works SL8 in half, I'm sure it would look like similar. It depends where you cut it as well. Like some tubes are going to be thicker than others, some are going to be thinner than others. But yeah, I think everything is going to be pretty much that. But yeah, I mean, it brings into question, like, are bikes getting too light? Are disc brake bikes getting too light? Like a crash like I had, usually you don't see crashes like that and bikes split in two. Like, like a pretty innocuous 30-kilometer-an-hour crash.
But normally you would expect the motor vehicle involved.
Exactly.
That's what was wild.
Yeah. I mean, even if you like look at a recent race like Paris-Nice last night, you see guys crashing at like 65 k's an hour out of a corner and they're all broken bones, everyone's cooked, but the bikes seem relatively fine.
But is that why they run the fake Lab 71?
Well, this was
because
that's the
imagine
rumor.
how many rebuilds they'd have to do if they're snapping every time.
Yeah,
that was literally the rumor.
Yeah.
Now, can we just have a bit of fun then? So just removing yourself from the whole I work in the industry cash thing, and you're just Edwin Britz. You've got a nice finance job, but you're still,
I've got all the finances
you've still got your
as well.
350 watt FTP or whatever it might be. Can I just throw a few at you?
Yeah.
Can you Aeroad?
Can you Aeroad? Yes or no? Are we just doing yes or no?
As a replacement bike.
Chris is just trying to flog his one over there.
I got one here.
Exactly. The Canyon Aeroad, I would go for it, but I go for the most current generation with the updated headset, with like the updated bars, and then I'm pretty sure the gravel bars, like the flared gravel bars, are compatible with the normal ones. I would do that conversion with the big flare because that would be pretty steez.
SL8,
100%. That's I feel like if anybody's offering you an SL8, you take it. You absolutely take it.
Madone?
No. No, Madone. Too many. Also, certified dog.
Look, Aeroblade.
Look, Aeroblade. For the steez factor, yes, it's very cool. No one's riding that. That is basically the most unique bike on the road.
Van Rysel.
Also, most unique bike. No one's riding that. And it's pretty quick. It actually goes fast. I'd be interested in riding one.
Windspace, T1550.
I mean, like, I'd put that on the same plane as a Tavello. I reckon.
Excuse me.
I mean, I just sort of like, I don't know if I'm being like too generalist here, or am I just like, clumping them all into the same sort of category? Like, I find that like, Eastern manufactured frames like Seeker, they're like a step above because they kind of like.
Don't mention Seeker on this channel.
we hate Seeker.
No.
Look, as far as dealing with them dealing with them as a brand as well, they're somewhat troublesome to deal with because they're a small company. They're trying to fulfill a huge demand.
Have you built a Windspace T1500?
I haven't.
No, okay.
Have not
I'd
yet.
be curious.
Yeah.
To see what you think if you getting a rattle of the carbon and comparing.
Scott Foil.
Scott Foil, yeah, 100%. The HMX frame, or even the new RC as well, like the super lightweight one with the Syncross wheels. It's like 5.9 kilos out of the box. I'd also give that a crack just to see what it's like because that's crazy.
So that was sort of my next question was like, are the only bikes you're looking at essentially aero bikes? Is there any climbing bike that you would have considered, or that's about it?
Really, all that's on the market now is pretty much it's only really aero bikes. Like this is kind of the death of the climbing bike. I feel like hardly anyone's really riding like the TCR. Everyone's riding a Propel. No one's really getting an R5. They're all getting an S5. Like no one's buying Aethioses. They're all getting,
Would you get an S5?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I would probably get an S5 again. Yeah, that was a fantastic bike.
Like you're waiting till October by the sounds of it. There's just there's none in the country.
Yeah.
I was asking
for the new one or for the.
No, we don't talk about that.
We don't talk about the new one.
Merida Reacto.
That was my first proper bike.
Oh, really?
My first proper carbon bike
was disc brake
with rim, and then I got the disc version a few years later, because where I wasn't working in the industry. Like 99 Bikes was selling them, and they were selling them cheap. And I got a 6000 Reacto 6000E, I think, with Ultegra Di2, and that was a great bike. That was actually, a good bike. I like that.
Would you go back to a new System 6, Cannondale?
I would love another System 6, but it is just a punish to ride. It just destroys you. Like I've done some big days on it, and it just punishes.
But that was a while ago. Like that would have been back in the 25C tire era, right?
I was running 28s at the time, actually.
Okay.
But you couldn't the clearance on the rear, like wheel, just because of that cutout in the seat tube, you really can only just fit a 30. Like just like an absolute bee's dick of a 30 fits in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll wait to see where he heads with this. Keep us abreast of the situation. But what should Ed be looking out for? All right, let's pause for a quick moment just to chat about Silka, who are today's show partner. Jesse, the ultimate sealant.
Yeah, if you've been living under a rock, they have updated their ultimate tubeless sealant, taking the sealing properties of the previous one, which was world class, making it last longer, 6+ months inside the wheel, and you can inject it through the valve now, so easier to top up after about 6 months to keep it going. They've got a blend of natural and synthetic latex, and then the big difference here is the carbon fiber individual strands that are dispersed amongst the sealant.
And it's injectable.
Yep.
This is a controversial word in the world of cycling, but in this particular occasion, injectable is what you want. So yeah, you don't have to take the tire off, sort of slide it around the side. You can kind of use the little injector.
Exactly. And the gravel season's underway in the US, and for the Silka sponsored athletes, they're offering a bad day bonus. So they're standing behind the sealing properties of the new sealant so much that if a pro rider in the Lifetime Grand Prix gets a flat that doesn't seal and requires a plug or a tube to go in there, $500 for the athlete. So they're backing the product, putting the money where their mouth is.
Awesome. If you do want to go ahead and purchase some of this, use code NEROSHOW at checkout and you'll get 15% off. That is store-wide. So the ultimate sealant, the waxing system, the floor pumps, all that kind of stuff, get amongst it. And a big thanks to Silka for supporting today's episode. All right, so you're a professional mechanic.
Pro, mate.
Edwin Britt's a pro, bro. So I wanted to ask you just about a couple of things that you might have seen over the last couple of years. This was sort of highlighted to me when I had a little issue with my front, well, not a little issue, a terminal issue with my front derailleur on Shimano when I was up in Noosa, and it just died. And came back and you said, I've kind of seen this a little bit. So have you seen certain issues across some of these products that you can mention?
There's certainly like a few. The front derailleurs for 12-speed Shimano have had like some issues. It's not as common as something like the shifters. About like 12-speed Shimano wireless shifters, after about, I would say like a year and a half, the button presses don't communicate 100% reliably. So they still will shift, but sometimes what you have to do is you have to pull a lever in slightly and then press the button to actually get the whatever group set component to shift. And
is this what happened to Will on the weekend?
That's what happened to Will on the weekend. And it's happened to myself as well on my own, Dura Ace group set that I have. And it's a funky issue. I'm not really sure of the cause. I feel like it's got something to do with like the way the buttons are glued onto the blade and they might misalign somewhat because the buttons still work, but you just have to sort of align the blade in a certain way where it will actually shift. Yeah, it's a little bit funky, but
is this a warranty thing?
This is a warranty thing.
So they acknowledge.
Yeah, they acknowledge the warranty.
Okay.
They're totally fine with it. But we also have to think like you're producing products that have so many moving parts in such a small little package. Like things are gonna go wrong. Like they just have to. And the fact that most bikes nowadays are pretty much like flawless, they're completely free of any errors, is a testament to just how good like current bikes are. Like you hardly see any like, bricked derailleurs anymore like they used to be back in the day when like, electronic shifting was a bit of a thing. Like you could update your Shimano group set via an app and brick the whole group set if you lose connection.
I remember SRAM 11 speed E-tap rear derailers.
They were always.
Oh my god!
It's just
It's like,
yeah,
it's like someone would go, yeah, oh yeah, it's shut itself. Yeah, that's back
it's
to
gone.
the factory.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That like surprisingly, those things they don't happen anymore. Yeah, and like you can put these group sets through like a huge amount of abuse, and still they work, which is like pretty good. But yeah, there's just a few niggles here and there. I think Shimano, they're grappling with the new wireless tech, and I think they mightn't have like fully,
Is there any like precursor to that button happening? Because I only think about it because this happened to a guy that was doing peaks on the weekend, and he's like riding around on the Saturday beforehand going, holy shit, my front derailleur's stopped working. Oh, hang on, it works now. Oh, it's not working again.
He called me in a lot of distress. Yeah. A lot of distress.
So is there a feel, like, can you feel it starting to happen?
There's not really any feel because the button presses are exactly the same. The click is exactly the same. But once the lever is like at its, like basically its resting position, if you press the buttons, nothing happens. And then you're like, what the hell? And if you like press it in anger, you'll eventually just like accidentally pull a lever blade in like a millimeter, and then it will work. And it's just super inexplicable, but sometimes it just happens. And I've seen it happen on like, I would say probably about like 10 bikes, maybe 10, 15 bikes now. And it's only once you've had the group set for about a year or at least year and a half. It's not something that you'll notice immediately. Like it's not going to happen in the first 2 weeks of ownership. It's going to happen years down the track. So you just got to, make sure that like, if you're getting these group sets, getting them firsthand is good because you do get that warranty. Otherwise, like if you get it secondhand, you might not be, able to warranty something like that, which is something that Shimano would definitely sort for you.
Is there a certain wheel or a certain tyre that is just an absolute shit to set up tubeless?
I think if you have like any Roval wheel, just because the external width is massive, with a narrower Continental GP, so like 28s on like Roval like CLXs, massive punish. But apart from that, honestly, you can get most tire rim combos sorted at home with a track pump.
Yeah,
just take the valve core out and you can do it. Yeah, I like. You just need a good set of Pedro's tire levers, and then you're good to go.
Okay. I'm the same. People won't even, the COVID babies won't even realize I'm floor pumping up 30C tubeless like it's no one's business. I used to be there with CO2 canisters because I didn't have a compressor and all kinds of stuff. It's so easy now.
I find it's just technique. It's not even like the technology sort of evolved. The more you do it, the better you get. Like I've had people come up to me and they're like, I just can't do this, and just on the spot, just bang bang, you do it in front of them, and they're like. Yeah, they feel a bit silly, but it's just because you do it so much, you get good at something. I
don't know those Campy WTOs, which were great wheels.
They're hard.
They were hard to set up.
They're hard.
Like I went through many a canister and trying to set it up, but like now it's just like dry, raw with no sealant. Sometimes just to set it.
Yeah,
and I'll just pump it up.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
It just happened.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, that's fine, but what's happening with servicing then? What's happening in shops at the moment? Because if a build's like a half day, right, longer maybe, and a service is, I'm guessing that's taking longer. What's happening in the running of a shop then with?
Like we're seeing now that there's no longer just like a 1 hour tune up that you can feasibly get done within an hour. A lot of the time, if people bring their bike in, something's actually wrong with it. Not a lot of people are like ahead of their maintenance. They're not maintaining their bike preventatively. They're sort of maintaining it on the fly as they need it. So someone will bring their bike in, and then there'll be like a whole myriad of issues. But because everything's internal now, if you want to get to anything, if you want to get to a cable, if you want to check the headset, if you want to if you need to reroute anything, it's hours. So even just what could be a very basic tune-up is now like hours of labor because of the way cables are routed through headsets, because of just like how bikes are put together. Everything is like so much tighter. Frames are getting thinner because everyone wants a really low CDA frame. All the clearances are just like super, super fine. If you're not like really across, how every single bike is put together, and if you're not really like adept at routing cables and things, it could be like a whole entire day for a single service if you're not across how to actually work on a internally routed like race bike now.
So why are you going in to get acts to fish cables through for a service? What's happening there?
Well, say like if someone's, they've unplugged a Di2 cable, it's not just as easy as just plugging it back in. You might have to take the whole headset apart, take the handlebars apart, or someone's like headset needs to be tightened. You need to clean their headset. You can't really properly actually clean a headset as well as you can, with all the cables retained and, the forks out a little bit and you're trying to work a way around a bearing. It's not that easy. Like you have to, pull everything apart, put it all back together in a very certain order. It's difficult to work on really any like modern day integrated bike.
So a shop's making less. Is this shops making less money, or is it making more money because you got to charge more? It just costs the consumer more.
I find that it just means that you can't take on as many jobs. So you can only take on a certain amount of jobs per day. You can't just take on like, say if you had like before internally routed bikes were a big thing, you could take on probably like 4, 5, 6 jobs a day. But now you can only take on 2 or 3 just because those bikes take so much longer to work on. They take so much longer to look at. Like even just, really anything that's like would be fairly basic nowadays. You have to pull a computer out, diagnose a derailleur with a desktop app, or re-bleed a brake, which might need a new a new line. That's going to take hours. Everything just takes longer and longer and longer because these bikes are so much more complicated now.
Is day-to-day maintenance easier or harder than it used to be?
I would say day-to-day, it's much easier because there's much less that you can do. Unless you're able to actually build the bike, from scratch. Day-to-day, it's easy because you really can't do anything else.
I think of it like a cliff. There's I can do all the things like on the top of the cliff, but as soon as I sort of peer over into the next sort of echelon of stuff, forget about it.
Yeah,
I'm falling down into a deep abyss.
Exactly. Yeah, like if it's basically nowadays, if you can replace the handlebars on your bike, you can build the whole entire thing. You can do the whole job. Whereas back not even 10 years ago, like 5 years ago, you could just slap a new set of bars on, no problems. Like pretty much anybody could do that. But nowadays it's like, if you can put the bars on, you can do the whole entire thing and you can probably get a job in a bike shop because like, how to do a whole very complicated job.
Harder. I mean, the electronic gears is a night and day, just way better. Totally, like no brainer. But the brakes, obviously building it's harder. But also, I just find the brakes just go spongy randomly. Like, they'll be fine, and then I'll take the wheel out to do something, put it back in, and suddenly I'm like, oh, my lever throw's totally changed.
Yeah.
And maybe that needs, like, what does that need, by the way? Maybe I'll just ask you now.
Yeah.
So the brake goes a bit spongy,
but
no
this a few times.
oil
after
has
taking the wheel out, you reset the pistons.
So reset the pistons, and so they spread, and then then you put the wheel back in and squeeze them with the wheel back in. And
what you're probably feeling is that maybe one of your pistons is probably a little bit like more contaminated and dirty than the other, and one's getting sticky. And then the sponginess that you're feeling is that one piston is actuating more than another one. And that's actually bending the rotor over to the other piston, to the other brake pad, and it's like pushing the rotor over, and your pads are no longer like aligned properly. So you need to do to fix the issue properly, you need to like clean the actual pistons yourself.
Yeah,
But so this is what I'm talking about. It's like,
but that's not. Is that would I clean the pistons? What do I take? I'd have to take the caliper off, and am I in there with a Q-tip? And
you just have to take the wheel out. You have to take the pads out. You have to go in with like brake cleaner and like brake oil. It's probably a little bit too much for the home mechanic. Like my perspective is probably not the best because I obviously am a mechanic.
That's harder.
Yeah, like that's legitimately. Yeah, no, that's I'm like, when that happens, I'm like. Probably got to take this to see Edwin. I'm not, because you're 5 seconds away. Anything down there from you going to the shop anyway.
That's the abyss.
You've pressed something. It's all
the abyss. That's a great analogy because it really is. Like as soon just this exact issue. It's like this is probably the reason, but then it's not, and it could be something even more complicated than that. So
what about the one that I had that time when I put the bike in the car and we went up Barrel and I got out the other and. Suddenly I had spongy brakes and I went, what the fuck's this? And I took them, put it back to you and you had a bubble.
Yeah.
And he showed me and I've subsequently forgotten how you had like a bubble in the thing, and you showed me like the bubbles like popped out of the fluid.
So that's like if you have hydraulic lines, they basically should have like 100% saturation of like oil in the lines, in the cylinders, in the calipers. They should have like there should be no air because hydraulic oil, it's incompressible. You can compress air. If you have air in there, the brakes don't work because you're compressing the air instead of the fluid. So, like, if you store your bike upside down, where the master cylinder is in the shifters, right?
That's what I do. I think that's what I did that time.
Yeah,
I took the wheels out and it was upside down.
If you store it upside down, that means all the air is going to rush basically like to the back of the bike, to where the calipers are, and then that's going to basically like induce a bubble in the lines. If it's in the shifters, there's a bit of leniency. You can have a little bit of air in there, and it's still going to work. But like if it's in the calipers or in the lines or something like that air, you're going to have that problem, and you might not be able to get that bubble out because of the way the cables are routed. There might be no way for this bubble to like cleanly travel all the way back up to the top where it needs to be. But
is that better on SRAM? I feel like that's a big issue.
It's not
like toss. You travel. You get three guys together, drive somewhere.
Someone's
toss a coin.
bike's up and down.
Someone's brakes are gone spongy.
Yeah, I would say it's not necessarily. It's just a quality of the bleed. Initially, like if the bleed is done correctly, you really shouldn't have to touch it for at least a year. For mineral, for dot, it's usually like every 6 months or so. Under like heavy use, which is SRAM, they use dot fluid. But for road bikes, like typically like a year for either one is fine. Like you're not really needing to bleed your brakes very often. If it's done correctly one time, you shouldn't have to do it again. But if you constantly like flip your bike upside down and, do all these things, like air and water and little bits of stuff can pass through seals. Like it does just happen. Things degrade, seals degrade, air and water and whatever can get inside the lines, like just a tiny amount. But all you need is like half a milliliter, even less, to affect the actual performance of your brakes. And then that's another thing. Like, are you going to be able to rebleed your brakes at home? Probably not. That's
is that the thing where you put the rereservoir on and you put the oil in and then you just sort of
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit more to it than that, but it's like pretty much that's the thing. You're just trying to saturate the whole braking system with as much oil as you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's your opinion on the whole like services taking longer? Is that just what it is, or are you kind of this is bullshit? Why is this stuff so hard to work on?
Well, I mean, it's not bullshit because that's the way bikes are. Like that's just the way it is now. And like, like things were maybe a little bit more complicated in a different direction like a while ago, where like say like 5-10 years ago, you could like rock up to a bike shop with like a slightly either broken item or like on your group set, and then a bike shop could actually like figure out kind of a bit of an abstract way to fix it. But now, if someone has that same sort of problem, things are so complicated now and unserviceable that you can't fix it. Like, there's no more serviceability of like components for bike shops, basically. Like, if it's anything more than like, a jockey wheel replacement, you pretty much need to get a brand new derailleur for like if things go wrong. Whereas maybe, with a mechanical group set from a few years ago, you might have been able to replace a specific component and then like user serviceability was much better. So like, yeah, even just the componentry, like all the group set and everything, it's so much more complicated now. Like you can't just have a little fix here and there.
But that doesn't kind of frustrate you. Maybe frustrate's not the right word, but you're not sort of talking to bike brands being like, look, you need to bring back external cables and we need more serviceability. It's just is what it is.
It is what it is, but it's sort of changed the way bike mechanics sort of operate, I guess, because nowadays bike mechanics are sort of basically like, we're just diagnosing problems and we look at them and we say like, look, this is no longer, useful. I can't just
bodge a solution.
I can't
here.
bodge a solution here.
Yeah.
I have to just order a new one.
Yeah.
Like I just have to diagnose this, be like, all right, it's like whatever's wrong with it. There's nothing I can do. Order a new one, and then I just have to, do that. I can't just like have a little fix that is sort of like, a clever way around a problem. Like there's no more like abstract thinking around these group set components or frames or anything. It's pretty much just like cut and dry. This doesn't work. You need a new one. That's kind of what it is.
So the electronics is an obvious one because that's all like self-contained and stuff. But are there any things on bikes that you think are unnecessarily hard to work on that you're like, And if I was Giant, I'd go back to external cables or something like that. External bearings, I don't know, whatever the thing is.
I think having your your brake hoses go through your headset bearings is unnecessarily hard, because then it's just impossible to service your headset. There's a few brands actually that do offer solutions where they replace the headset bearing with a smaller one, and then that goes around the steerer tube and the cables go outside. If you have like a whole
what brands do that? Oh, so you've got the steerer tube and then a fairly thin bearing, and the cables sit on the. Was that like the old Cannondale? It sort of sits in front of.
Yeah, exactly. That means that you can service
bearings?
your headset.
What about the new? Yeah. So that was the old version of the Super 6. The new version of the Super 6, is that internal?
Yeah, everything's internal.
So you would say to Cannondale that you preferred the previous.
Yeah, because if you need to replace a headset, you can't just replace the headset. You have to rebleed the whole bike. You have to cut the cables, undo the bar tape, take the bars off, take the headset out. It's a massive job.
So are they pressured to do that because it looks neater when it's internal, and it's maybe a little faster?
Exactly. Everybody likes the look of an internally routed bike. I have like so many customers asking me like how to make their older bikes like more neat, and even if it is possible to make them fully internal. There's even a few bikes that I do this EXS fork upgrade for. There's a brand that sells a internally routed aftermarket fork for older 2021 model year Giant TCRs, and then you can take that original frame and then put this aftermarket fork in it, and it makes the whole thing integrated.
Yeah, right.
People go crazy for that. They love it just because it removes the cables, and it's like functionally it's the same thing, but it's just aesthetically there's two less cables that you're looking at, which people really seem to froth. But yeah, it just makes like living as a mechanic harder because you're just not able to work on things as quickly. Yeah.
But even if a cable was external in 2025, would it make that bigger difference to serviceability?
Maybe.
Is it potentially an overrated issue?
Well, I don't want to speak for everyone, but my thing would be, but if you're a bike shop, and someone comes in every second day with the internally routed version, which means that servicing the headset takes an extra 2 hours, how many more man hours is that adding on across a whole workshop cycle?
Yeah, exactly. Like say if you have, it's really anything like that, the whole bike sort of revolves around the bars and how they're routed and how they go onto the rest of the bike. If anything goes wrong there, it could be hours and hours and hours. And like even with say drivetrains now, like if it's Di2 or ETAP or whatever, it can still be good, but it can take a while to diagnose problems if there's something going on, because as I said, like it might be like an issue that's not user serviceable. You're looking at it and you can't really wrap your head around it because it's something that's just minute that's going on.
But the fix to that or improvement would be to make the headset bearings last longer so that you're not really going in there.
Well, that's exactly it. Like that's what Ceramic Speed have done with their SLT bearings. And
do they work? Are they better?
They absolutely work. Yeah, I've from all the bikes that I've worked on with the SLT bearings, they work. So factors actually come stock with these, which is great because it just means that I don't have to worry about that really ever. You can get them aftermarket on Ceramic Speed's website, and basically what it is it's like they, rather than using like grease to lubricate their the balls inside the races of the headset, they use a liquid polymer that goes in and then hardens, and basically like it almost completely encloses and entraps the bearings in there and nothing can get in. And they have a lifetime warranty. They are they basically never ever need to be serviced. It's like the solid lubrication.
There must be slightly more friction.
They're a little bit heavier but they get faster over time, because what you're doing is when you're turning these balls against the racers, you're wearing down the polymer that was injected into the racers, and you're making it slightly, a better interface between the balls and the racers. So over time, they get a little bit better. But these are pretty much specific for headsets. They're a little bit too high friction for bottom brackets or wheel bearings or anything like that.
There's pretty much not a week goes by that Jesse and I don't mention one of these topics or include it somehow in something that we're talking about. So I wanted to go through some of Chris and Jesse topics on the NERO show and ask you whether you think they're overrated or underrated?
Yep.
In terms of reality. Let's start with internal rim width, ladies and gentlemen.
I think this is getting unbelievably overrated. If I have someone coming into the shop, one of the first questions if they're trying to buy wheels, like I'll recommend a set. They're like, "What's the internal width?" It has a big characteristic in how the wheel rides, but it's getting to be like that's the number one feature. It's not about. No one cares about the weight anymore. Yep. No one even cares how aero they are anymore. It's about how wide. What's the internal width? And
it's your fault.
I feel like
I think that is the number one thing. If I'm looking at a wheel set and go on the website, what's the first thing I look at?
I know what you think.
I think
everyone knows what you think.
Because I'm not going to look at the weight and then it's a 19 internal. I'm like, okay, I just wasted time looking the weight up.
Yeah.
So to me, like the internal width is the first door to open.
But like,
what's the first door to open when buying a wheel? Then give me your threshold. Give me your factors. 4 factors to buying a wheel.
I think
number 1,
most important is depth, because that's going to be how the wheel rides. Good. Right? Internal width is not going to change. Like, it will change how the wheel rides, but it's not going to change it drastically.
Like,
okay.
You don't need to placate him.
It got me on a technicality. Of course, the depth. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, depth is most important. All right.
Okay,
well,
got me there.
Before then, material choice. Is it alloy? Okay. What are we?
Is it round?
Yeah, is it round?
Those triangle wheels don't roll too well.
The hexagon wheels. No, we're like. Material choice is number 1 if you're in between carbon or alloy, but I'm pretty sure no one's in that market. We're only looking.
Do we need to discuss the pros and cons of alloy wheels?
We're not doing this.
Okay. Good.
Then depth, I would even say. I would say rim width is second most important, and then it would be hubs and spokes for me. That's sort of That's my tier list.
Mine would be carbon or steel spokes. Then internal rim width.
Carbon or steel spokes, for which way are you wanting? What are you hoping for?
I am at this stage hoping for steel.
Okay. What are you hoping for?
Steel as well. Just a traditional spoke.
You old school fellas. Yeah. Just you wait for 2025. Now the steel spoke going to be released this year.
I don't know. I've seen a few. There's a friend of the show. Or a friend of at least, I don't
have any friends.
No friends here, not even Jesse. No. At one of the fast bunch rides that we do, one of our friends, he accidentally, mistakenly dropped a 10mm Allen key into his rear wheel, and he was riding wheels that had carbon spokes, and just about every single one of them broke. Which I don't think would happen if you had a traditionally laced wheel. So he's looking at a lot more spokes, whereas if you had a steel spoked rim, you'd probably only be up for 1 or 2 spokes, but he is looking for practically like
for me, I just don't think the performance benefit is enough yet for what they are offering. If I get on one and I conclude, these are vastly superior, then yeah. But once you factor in the additional stress of the actual carbon spoke, I just don't think the performance advantage
I'm actually with you. In terms of that, for me, it's like either or. Look at the other things first. What's the weight?
Yeah.
It's just the problem is a lot of the steel spoked wheels are just heavy.
Yeah. They don't hold their speed.
No.
Carbon spokes.
I agree.
Ooh.
I agree with that.
Don't hold their speed.
They don't hold their speed. They don't hold their speed.
I do disagree with that.
No, they don't.
Okay.
Yeah, unequivocally. Maybe for the next the Tavello build, I'll put a steel spoked rim in the front and a carbon in the rear.
The fastest wheels are carbon spoked. The two fastest wheel sets are carbon spoked.
Doesn't factor in turbulent air. You've said it yourself. You've gone on a wheel. You've gone on a fast set of steel spoked wheels, and you've gone. No, these are more planted at speed than my carbon spokes.
They hold that's what it is. It's holding its speed.
Well, holding speed's different from turbulent air.
No, that's where the speed holding.
That's where you're holding it. Yeah,
that's where it happens. That's when
once
you start
you're at
freewheeling.
Speed, you hold it.
That's where you start
Syncross
freewheeling.
Capital SLs and the Scope R-Tech.
I saw a few
are
Syncrosses.
both carbon spoked and test fast.
I would love to ride a pair of Syncross.
Same here.
Wheels, if Syncross wishes to send them out, please.
You've got
love
2
to ride
willing
them.
ambassadors right here. All right, next one. Tool magazine testing. Overrated or underrated?
I think it can really be like a be-all and end-all in people's buying decisions now. Like, if something is not tested to be fast, regardless of what else they want, if it's like, it's not for me. And then, like, it's...
Good.
Yeah, I mean, like, fair enough, right? Like, you know, if you want to get only high-performance products, but then the people that are looking at this might not necessarily need to be looking at the tour magazine. We're testing bikes at 45 k's an hour. We're talking about bikes, like, these are all tested at 45 k's an hour. Like, that is fast. And like, you know, you got to think about how many rides a week are you doing where you're sustaining that much speed. Like, where you're actually like sustaining riding that fast. Majority of your riding is going to be much less than that. And you probably, like, in my opinion, when I sell a bike or when anyone wants to know about what's a good bike to ride, you really have to, like, think about where you're riding it, what you're riding it for, and sort of, you know, the ability level that you're at. So, yeah.
But in a world where we're searching for, like, rational factors to make decisions on, okay, we've got weight. We know that one.
Yeah.
We can pick it up. We know that, right? Well, after that, it's like now I'm already starting to go into the subjective. Oh yeah, feels all right, but then at least with Tour we've got a number, which obviously its relation to reality is questionable, but it's a number that's kind of like weight that we can use. So I don't know.
Absolutely. I think it should factor into your buying decision if you're looking at bikes for performance. If you want a performance bike, I feel like you have to at least consider it. You don't have to make it the be-all and end-all. That's the whatever. Like, we're all getting Simplon Pride 2s. Like, that's...
Yeah.
Like, you know, I feel like not many people are, like, you know, looking at it and being like, this is the bike. I'm going to get the fastest bike on the market. They'll still look at it, but if it's between, say, like a... you know, like Giant Propel versus like a Factor, people might go for the Factor because it's faster.
Yeah, I think it's for more like if you're even aware of what Tour magazine testing is, then you probably already care. And then sometimes it's a question of if two bikes both meet my needs. Like if I'm looking at a Cannondale Super 6 and I like the geometry is good for my bike fit and people say it rides pretty well, and then and my other purchase choice is a TCR. And they're both within 500 grams of each other. Of course, you'd just get the Cannon. Price aside, you would just get the Cannondale. Like, it is just faster.
Yeah.
Even if you don't, 99% of the time, you're not riding that fast. I can't understand not getting the faster option.
Yeah.
If both bikes are meeting all your other needs.
And it's Tour magazine that we are relying on for that faster. Basically.
Yes.
So
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what so anyway, we'll say it's rated correctly then.
Yeah.
Sugar water, overrated or underrated?
Sugar water, it means that we don't sell a lot of nutrition at Cache.
Have you ever used the sugar water?
I've used the sugar water. Okay. I usually like mix it up with a bit of honey as well for flavor. Or even put a salt tab in there as well. That's kind of, you know, make your own like high carb electrolyte.
So if you're doing a weekend 4 or 5 hour ride, what's going in the bottles?
Like, it depends on the ride. A lot of the time, like, I'll usually, honestly, I'll just start with like a Morton mix if it's like a proper training ride, like a 320. Yeah. I think the 160, if you're going to be onboarding carbs through like liquid carbs, I feel like you should just get as much in there as physically possible, which sugar water, obviously, great for that. You can just put as much carbs in there as you want. Like the 160s, those sort of lower density ones, not really as useful. And then as far as food is concerned, definitely got to have a bag of lollies on you for sure. I think it's 50 grams of carbs for about 6 snakes, is it?
No, it's more than that. You need a few more snakes.
Yeah, a few more snakes. But anyway,
what about a midweek then?
Midweek?
I'm trying to find a situation where you might just throw sugar in there, or it's not.
Yeah, midweek is good because it's like it's cost effective.
Yep.
Something for the chop. Well, we won't say that.
No.
Got to cut that out. We can't say the chop.
Oh.
I don't want people coming to the chop anymore.
Oh right, someone took you out. But you've actually got friends and ride with people. What are Are people using sugar water, or is it just us weirdos?
People use sugar water.
Just your regular Sydney.
It's usually the like slightly faster guys that actually know about training. They know about nutrition. They know about how much they need to onboard. So like for myself, I need about like at peak performance, I need about 80 grams of carbs an hour. And you need to onboard both physical food and also liquid carb as well to sort of like meet that. Otherwise, it's kind of it's a bit of a challenge.
Soft.
That's soft.
Solid food.
Solid food. Liquid only. Yeah, I will be an advocate for solid food because if you're doing a multi-day stage race, liquid food destroys your guts, and the next day can be a massive struggle.
So people are using it out there. Oh shit. You're chatting to people on rides, and people are running it.
People are running it. People run the sugar water. I mean, that's really all you need. Like, you don't really need anything. It's about as basic as it gets.
Okay.
Yeah. As far as like an efficient fuel source, you can't get any better.
So from the non-elite side, then, because you came into the sport young as like a uni student, it's like that's kind of the people we want to get into it a bit more. I'm going to name a whole bunch of different aspects of cycling in general.
Yeah.
I want you to tell me where are the gains? Where are we bringing more people in? So we got criterium racing or road racing, Fondo crowd, bunch ride, group ride, club crowd, fashionista, Instagram crowd, just pure socializing run club crowd, health, wellness, longevity, aesthetic crowd. What are you feeling?
I reckon
where's the growth?
To grow, I reckon it's just honestly, it's the social. Like people, they join run clubs because they want to be a part of something. You can run by yourself. You can also ride a bike by yourself, but people, they want to be around other people. And, it might be a reason why some people go to the gym with a lot of mates or whatever it might be. Like, people do like group events like run clubs. That's sort of, I feel like where a lot of people can join the sport. It's have a lot of people come to something new all together. They meet each other, they join, they have friendships, and then you can invest a lot of time with some other people in this thing that you both commonly enjoy.
Are clubs doing that well though? Or is it the unstructured ride? Or do we need more group, like bubble clubs?
I think it's more of like a bubble club thing. It's not like the established clubs are really like, they're more for like actual like seasoned riders. But groups like Rafa are really good at bringing in new riders because it's very like welcoming, and their social media is very good. A lot of established clubs, their social media is like terrible. Like you just don't know what's going on at all. You'd have to email them to get like a ride, list of what's going on in the week. But like rides like Rafa, fantastic. I mean, you've had like VC on. He's like, his kind of content is that new generation of like,
So that brings people into the sport?
I think so. I mean, the content looks good. It's sort of almost like a kind of like skate video style content where it's like cuts of like, riding, racing, off the bike, on the bike, kind of. You get a bit more of a holistic view.
Cool,
it makes it look cool. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Like,
is there enough of those though? Because you named Rafa. If you're in Sydney and you're, what's this road cycling thing? They're
cool. Out there.
There are some out there.
There are.
There's little like microcosm kind of clubs here and there, and like a lot of them, you just like guys like us, we wouldn't even know about because they're sort of like not on our radar. But like there's clubs like even like Zeal, Parkoop have a club as well.
What's the one in Melbourne? Isn't that
there's Nostromo?
Yeah,
yeah. That's like.
So what's that?
This is like another planet.
Well, that's
this is what I wanted to talk about for a while.
Yeah.
These clique groups.
Yeah.
Because we're dinosaurs, right? We've come from I register at the club. I live here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Person. And
we
now,
meet at 4 a.m.
Now it's like you just do an Instagram search and they look cool.
Yeah.
There's a meetup time. Cool, I'm going.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
what are these guys?
Well, Nostromo's not really like a club. I mean,
none of them are.
What's Nostromo? Is that a coffee brand or what is it?
So Patrick, who works at Cache in Melbourne, he's worked very hard to get this very aesthetically pleasing, very cool, cycling team off the ground. And there's like a women's and a men's team, and they do a lot of
registered with Oz Cycling?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're registered with Oz Cycling.
Okay.
They did Melbourne and Warrnambool in Nostromo kit. They've done, a few rounds of the.
So it's a
interesting.
team though.
it's a team. It's not really like a.
So you can't just rock up
You
for.
can't really just rock up. I mean, there is supporters kit available if you're interested. Like, it looks good.
Oh, hold on. This is not what I'm talking about. Getting people in to do to do social rides.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
that's not
sorry.
really. It's
Not
more.
some
That's
pretend
more of like
race team.
Okay.
That's more of like ZCC. You can't just rock up to that.
Right.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
doing
I
nothing.
mean, like Zeal, like that kind of Kester
Okay.
McQueen thing.
Okay.
Like that's sort of more of a rock up and do it.
That's like a WhatsApp group.
Yeah,
team.
there's like a WhatsApp group. Yeah, even actually the WeChat like groups go hard. Like there's
yes.
a lot of WeChat riding.
Pastries.
Pastries is
Is
a
that a-
great
is that a
example.
great
Yeah, that's a fantastic. That's a fantastic example. Yeah,
Okay.
that's just like new to cycling. You probably might have seen them on Instagram. Like, there's, I don't even know. I think there's hundreds of members, and they do very like easy social rides.
Mhm.
And then they do sometimes really hard rides as well. Like long distance, difficult rides. So, there's sort of levels for that. But
And there's no real barriers to
there's no
entry there.
barriers. You literally just rock up, and then like it's a super supportive group. Like, if you rocked up to some of the groups in Sydney, like especially some of the faster groups, it's not as welcoming. So,
Well,
It's
no one,
okay.
no
That's
one really
okay.
run. It's okay, but no one runs them. There's no one being like,
yeah, that's
"Good morning,
right.
guys." Like, we're gonna do. It's just like
It's just like this
They
happens.
just
Yeah.
suddenly there's 20 people riding because
Yeah.
there's just some meeting time and
Yeah,
just
yeah. It's
it
just
gathers.
exactly like it's not organized. Whereas pastries and like Rafa and those kind of rides, they
So is this
they're
where
good
the
for-
apparel labels have really come in then?
I think
'cause
so.
I
yeah.
heard this comment, I don't know verbatim, like exactly what he said, but it was like people don't join clubs because they don't have any affiliation to it.
Yeah, they have no investment.
They join the apparel label club ride because they're invested in it. They align with the brand.
But also,
which blows my mind.
Just in terms of like a optics thing, it's so much easier to join a ride that's maybe like, say it's like a Cache X Attacker ride. It's so easy to join because like if you follow Attacker, you'll see the ride. Whereas like you might have to follow some obscure club to find out about their riding, which is not easy for like a surface level. Like if you're new to cycling, you don't know where to look. You're probably going to be following these brands. You're probably going to know about them. And then you'll see like, oh, they're doing a ride. Like I may as well come to that.
But do you think that person, I mean, you went to the Dulwich Hill rides and you had Carlos telling you off doing this and that, and ultimately it helped you get to a national, international level. Like, I'm not saying that everyone needs to progress through those ranks, whatever, but like going to the map ride, is that going to give you that same trajectory potentially?
No,
or it doesn't really matter.
These kind of rides, like, as much as they're like, lovely pastries rides, they're probably not going to progress you to that level. You're probably going to need to find like a bit more of a serious sort of group that do like a bit faster. They might have a ride on a Tuesday or a Thursday or whatever morning it might be that it's actually like, it's quick and that's going to progress you. But like in terms of a social aspect and bringing more people in, I feel like these branded rides, these clothing like branded rides, they're fantastic because, you come in and you don't know anyone and it's a great place to start. You can meet people, then you can make those connections to go to these faster rides. You can be like, hey, listen, like I'm interested in riding a bit faster. Like what's the go? Like, how do I do it? And then that's a great way to sort of, find out more about the scene is because you're like, you're meeting other people that are doing the same thing. These kind of rides, it's more of like a networking opportunity than an actual like physical progression of like your ability.
So the crit scene not really moving the needle for someone that's not super familiar already with cycling?
I think it's such a foreign concept for brand new bike riders that it doesn't like compute. Like one of the first questions you get asked if you like say that you ride bikes to any like normal punter on the street, they're like, oh, is that like mountain bikes or like Tour de France? That's the only two like, options. Like crits do not enter the public mind, I don't think. That's sort of like you have to be in the cycling scene to even consider that. And then if you're like a brand new cyclist, you're like a baby, foal, you basically can't even stand. You're like wobbling every step. You're not going to rock up to Heffron Park and be like, yeah, great, get me in there.
Yeah.
You'll be freaking out. You're
Too
like
far down the line.
Exactly. You're more worried about
Mm.
not falling over at the lights than like going around C grade at 60 k's an hour.
No, I think we saw it really interestingly this year at Peaks. Like that's sold out. And the demographic at Peaks I did my first one 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The demographic is totally shifting.
Yeah.
What's
It's
the
very
difference?
interesting. Well, it's a lot of like 20s, 30s, a lot of Asian guys and girls.
Yeah.
Like it's really the classic white Anglo mammal still there. Don't get me wrong, but it's changing. Even if you look at because they categorized it in age group afterwards, and that 30 to 40 age group is like ballooned up.
You know what it's turning into? It's turning into an Iron Man.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Because it's like for a regular punter off the street, they're like, Iron Man, that's a crazy hard thing. I'm going to try and do that.
Yep.
And then like a punter off the street, they're going to be like, oh, 3 Peaks, that's a very hard bike ride. I'm going to train and try and just, they're not worried about finishing time.
no.
They just want to do it. They just want to complete it. It's like the
Box
same
ticked.
thing as climbing Mount Everest. It's like you don't want to break a record or you do it with a trillion Sherpas or whatever. You can just say that you've climbed Mount Everest.
Yep.
Like, you know.
And like to follow up on that, my sort of thing is that Fondo for me is where I think that next thing, because I think we've kind of got that wave of people now, but now they're kind of looking around.
Yeah.
And they're looking at things like Peaks and stuff and going,
Yeah,
I'll tick that box.
No, I would
Geez,
agree.
I'd love something in September.
Even
Love something in
Amy's
October.
last year had a lot of hype around it, at least in the Sydney scene. I had so many people asking, like, what's the go? What's this? Like, this is the first kind of race, you know, I'm
It's
doing.
pity Letap doesn't
Yeah.
exist here still,
Yeah.
actually.
That was a fantastic event. Never got to do it. I really wanted to do the Southern Highlands one. That looked crazy.
No, it was the 2 winners here. It's not a big deal.
2 winners.
Nice. Well, one that won the real one.
Where's the medal?
It's signed Chris Froome jerseys, but I don't always display them. It's fine.
Oh, we got this though.
Yeah, you got that.
Yeah, we got that.
You got that. That's it. All right, Ed, you're going to help us this week. We have a couple of dogs or fast bikes. Now, a quick reminder that this segment is supported by Pillar Performance. Jesse, triple magnesium. What's going on?
I hate anecdotes because I have a scientific brain, but I'm just going to say it anyway because it just is what it is. Don't buy it just because I said this, but I started taking the triple magnesium 2 weeks ago, and that calf cramp I was talking
Calf
about.
update.
No shit, it's fixed it. So I don't know what was going on. Maybe I was low in magnesium, but yeah, the old persistent calf cramp has fixed itself. There's your N equals 1.
There's your N equals 1.
Yes.
Triple magnesium. Use code NERO at checkout for 15% off. Now, I thought I'd throw this in there. Thank you to everyone for continuing to send these in. Dog versus fast. Fastest bike I've ridden. Madone SLR Gen 7, size 52, 90 centimetre stem. But because of Madone's handlebar sweep, it looks like a 110, 37 centimetres wide, measuring 33 with turned-in levers. Ultegra build for money, heavy ass 1590 Aeolus Pro 51 wheels, but they're quite good. 23 internals, 28 GP 5000s, measuring 30. What else has he got? He's running Force with 1033, 5236. And the baby blue. Oh, sorry, Ultegra. Apologies.
5236 with a 1033 Force cassette. And that looks like a flat top chain. Oh dear. Can you run a flat top chain? Can you run a flat top chain with a Shimano 12-speed crank?
It's just not gonna. It's just not going to work.
It
is a flat top chain.
Hang on. What do we got going on?
Who's your bike mechanic? It is a Force cassette as well. I'm looking at it. It is actually a Force cassette, and that is actually a flat top chain.
Well, lucky we had the mechanic here. I don't know what would have happened if this happened. So yeah, look, expert opinion.
I like.
Just really wants that 5210.
Yeah. Like, he's losing 6 watts per 250 watts in the 10 as opposed to an 11. But I can't imagine your shifting's any good, mystery viewer. But yeah, I can't imagine your shifting is at all.
Well, it must work
it must work.
Degree,
I mean,
otherwise
like,
he wouldn't be able to run.
Fast or dog? I think it's fast. I think it's fucking fast. I think that is.
I mean,
an
if you're
optimized
running,
position.
look at his saddle. It is
Overrated.
slammed
Overrated.
forward. It's a 0 offset post,
Yeah.
slammed as far forward as you can possibly go.
I'd ride that.
He's like squeezing the big bottles in there. I mean, the
It's-
hoods are tilted all the way in.
Little bikes always look fast too.
I just think the shifting and the riding would be so clap.
That's a dog of a
I
bike.
just
What
can't
are you
imagine.
doing? Like, just
I
get
can't
the SRAM
imagine
chain
that.
set.
Yeah,
And
just
or
get a
or
Shimano cassette
chain.
and a
Sorry,
Shimano
that
Dura-Ace
just
chain. Like,
makes no
why would you
sense.
do this?
Yeah.
I just can't imagine that would work very well.
Gold.
It's definitely a dog. But he's
Two
found
versus
his
one.
thing. He's found his little.
Oh, now we can do consensus.
Yeah, 2
voting.
versus
All right.
1.
Exactly.
That's disappointing. No, I had
good.
you down as
Well,
a
look,
fast.
I would love to see a video with a power overlay and
Yeah.
just a chop off down some road. Like, yeah, I want to see a video of that bike in the stand and how quickly you can drop the cassette without the chain flying off.
Yeah. I wonder what the rationale is for doing that.
I
So
mean,
you
like
can get a
10:30
So you can get the 10:30. Yeah.
but like
Then you just
11,
get a 54.
34, like.
Yeah, it's really hard to get bigger chain rings.
I know, mate.
Look,
I know
just
people.
look, get in
Maybe
contact.
he accidentally bought
I know people.
a XDR wheel set and then needed to buy
That's
an
potentially-
XDR
that's-
cassette,
that's-
and he's like, "Oh, I have to get a SRAM cassette now."
That's not out of the question.
I mean, why not just put a SRAM Red Explorer cassette on the back? I mean,
Yeah.
you get an extra gear.
Exactly.
That's just it's as easy as that. 12 to 13 speed.
all right.
Oh no, it says it here. 5236 with 1033 force cassette and chain for weight reduction and final speed.
Becomes a 5711.
11. So it is
That's
for the bigger
fast.
gear.
Yeah.
It's for the bigger gear and the lighter weight force cassette.
I can't imagine that works very well.
That 10, I mean, I don't spend a huge amount of time in that 10 tooth.
The 10 is no
It's a
good.
dog of a gear.
The 10 is no good. The
It's
10
a
is no
dog of a
good.
gear.
I'm a
Yeah.
little bit concerned if the 9 tooth is going to make a bit of an appearance
Mm.
this year.
How low can you go?
Campag made the
4 tooth?
9.
Another one tooth.
One tooth. Just fixed. Yeah, I think 9 feasibly is the lowest you can go with still having like a 12mm through axle.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Get my 5642 on that bike, and it is fast.
Yeah.
All right. Takes us on to the new Factor Ostro VAM.
That yep.
Burke
That's
Lupina
slammed.
saddle.
Ooh.
Tune. Christ.
How's your
Wasser
German?
Traeger change cages. CRW 5060s.
No
Ooh.
chain
There
on
you
the
go.
bike though.
With some turbo cotton 28
They're
mils.
not, so that won't be tubeless.
Rotor carbon crankset. Yes, because I assume that's where he's. Oh no, his power meter's coming from the Asioma Duos.
Yep.
The 36 centimeter bar stem
Ooh.
configuration. We're looking at an Ultegra, except for the chain and cassette, which are Dura-Ace. Nice little sneaky upgrade that no one else noticed. Beautifully done. Weight including pedals and computer, and chain just not installed due to it being winter. Oh, you live in the UK then. 7.1 kilos. With my light bike climbing wheels, he can get it down to 6.8. With full Dura-Ace Duramus seat post, would shave another 260. Sounds like this guy's trying
This
to...
is a
this
full
is lot of
UK
weight-
build.
This is a lot of weight weenie
This
rabbit
is a
holing.
full
This
UK
is- yeah.
build.
So what do you think, dog or not?
I mean, this is like we've had a lot of thought here. When we
Mm.
go the 130, 36 bars, like you're going quick. You just
Mhm.
can't. You literally cannot go below 30 k's an hour on those bars. It's not possible. And you see how slam forward the saddle is. That's always a good indicator of how quick we're going. I reckon this would be quick. To be honest, I reckon this would be a fast bike.
These are your wheels?
Mm-hmm.
Cranks as well. You could actually go for the Rotor Aero Spider and then put the Aero chainrings on, or get something aftermarket like Garbrook or something if you wanted some more steezy stuff. But
I know what you're thinking, because I'm...
What am I thinking? I don't like the look of that saddle.
That's what I'm thinking.
My perineum is
That's what I'm
burning.
thinking.
as we
I'm thinking-
nah, it's
Okay.
supposed to hurt.
I'm
It's
thinking
supposed to hurt.
where he's spending the upgrades here, these weight weaning upgrades. They're making this bike slop.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
he's taking a really fast stock build,
Mm.
putting his own personality on it. But I think it's a shit personality because I don't like what he's doing here. I like the wheels.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like what else he's done.
I don't like the
sadly.
wheels. I reckon he needs deeper. For on Ostro, you need to go like we want to be looking at like 60 mil, as deep as you can go. And then also it looks like a 30 at the back, that cassette.
Yeah. Very, very small.
And we need a 34 on there. And then we just need a big chainring.
This is
need
difficult.
A big chainring.
I'm
And tubeless. Because tubeless is
I
just
can't
faster.
believe
no,
it.
so I'm gonna go fast. I'm gonna go certified fast. I think weight's decent. I'm gonna go. I would usually the tubeless would be a thing, but I think the turbo cottons I've ridden before, they're really nice. So if I was gonna go away from tubeless for anything, it would be for the turbo cottons. Then I'll give it. Yeah, I like the 30. I like the super long stem. I reckon it's
Narrow
fast.
bars.
I'll give it.
But we're looking at the hoods here. They look pretty much straight on. They're not tilted. And it'd be fast if it's not tilted.
He's not a 16-year-old.
Yeah, exactly.
Nah, I'll give it.
I reckon fast.
So we got fast and we've got
dog.
dog.
Yeah. But if you put the Daramo seat post in, it's not going anywhere because it'll crack.
It's up to you. You're the deciding vote.
I'm the decider. Well, if it's between the Trek being a slow dog and the Factor being a fast dog, I'm going to go for the Factor.
Okay. What do you think his threshold is?
Ooh.
It could be sub 200.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's just a weird.
I think it could be.
This is like I reckon this is like a 280, like
You reckon?
280, but thinks he's got a 360.
Yeah.
And then the Trek, I don't know, the Trek could be like 480
Yeah, the Trek
or 180. It's either or.
Trek 310 thresholds, but his average cadence is particularly low for some reason.
Very low.
Yeah. All right, that's dog or fast bikes. Thank you very much, Pillar Performance. Oh, can we do peaks?
We've been trying
Can we do
to wind the
peaks?
clock out.
Can you get this on?
Yeah, get along.
Is that the Peaks jersey?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Get
do
it
your
on.
peaks.
Get
What
it
do we?
on.
All right,
Put it
go
on.
on.
Okay.
We're wearing it.
Got a jersey. Who makes the jersey? Is
Oh,
a
Rizzle.
I got a medium.
Champ Sis? What is it?
Ah,
Oh,
Quare.
No discussion.
Have they got sub?
no free
Have they got sub
price.
9? Yeah, I mean
where's
sub
my
sub
sub
8?
7?
Sub 7.
Yeah, sub 7.
What's the lowest they go down to?
Sub
Finisher.
10, I think, is the only one.
So what is this? Just a finisher?
All right, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome.
Sub 10.
Welcome to the NERO Show this week. Sub 10. Sub 7, yes. So, what do you want to know, boys? What'd you do this weekend?
Tell us everything. How did you do it? I just one day, just tell me all the
I
secrets.
just went, oh, right. Yeah. What do you want to know? Do you want to know the ride breakdown or just general bike chat from the whole thing?
I want to
or
talk about gearing.
gearing. Okay. In
'Cause
terms
you
of,
specifically took off the big gears to
I
put
did.
on the little gears.
I did. This
And
is correct.
Thoughts.
And
having done
thoughts,
so.
it was a particularly successful thing to do. However, I really only used that. So I used that. What did we end up with? A
Was it
36, 34,
yes.
but basically 2 kilometers, and you can probably guess the 2 kilometers, which was, so there's basically, you get to the back of Falls and there's 3.5 kilometers of a wall, and you can normally muscle your way through the first kilometer of it, and then it keeps going so it's a 15-minute effort, essentially.
Yeah.
So basically the back half of that effort I spent in that gear.
Yeah.
And I actually noticed, so I was with 3 other guys at that point, Mick, Shannon, and a guy from Butterfields, and I noticeably could see that my cadence was higher than the other guys at that point in the thing, and you can hear multiple times as you're going up that little part of the wall.
Just a billip.
You can hear
No more gears.
Yeah.
Just no more
Everyone
gears.
else,
Yeah.
you can hear
Yeah.
it on their thing, like the clip, and then
Yeah.
beep, beep.
Yeah.
Like, nope, sorry lads, it's not there. So yeah, I mean that was a big win for me. The only other changes I made, so I ran the 47-43 reserve wheels instead of last year. I ran those 30s, but these are wide, so these are 24 rim internals. But ultimately, yeah, I went almost over half an hour faster than last year. But it's kind of shit chat, and I know you don't really want to talk about that, Jesse, and it's kind of fair because so much of it is actually conditions based. unfortunately, well, it's not unfortunately, but there will be years where I might do better power than I did this weekend.
But you won't go as fast.
And I won't go anywhere near as fast.
Exactly.
And so that's just the reality of it. But so the only segment that we went slower than last year was on that first descent. So it was about 30 seconds faster.
Yeah.
Everywhere else pretty
Faster.
much been faster.
Yeah.
So Toowoomba, I had to ultimately ride at pretty much threshold, so almost 350 watts to get up it, to stay in that front group. And Hotham, I did a PB up it, over 300 watts for the whole thing. But the big difference is, instead of last year where we all just melted in a furnace, and I did 234 watts for almost an hour and a half up the back of falls last year with you, this year I basically did 300 watts and saved almost 15 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, it was a very successful. And I think overall, everyone's times were kind of much faster than last year. Is that what you found across some of the people that you were coaching as well?
Yeah, a lot of people made really quick times. The problem is you got to be careful not to give yourself too much of a pat on the back and be like, "Whoa, I'm 40 minutes faster," and then you go next year and you're 10 minutes slower. But you might not be in worse condition. So I don't know. It's really difficult one to just really be digging into the times because it's so condition dependent.
Yeah. It is kind of nuts though. Like, I don't know how much you've followed the peaks thing, but like, sub 7 was mythical.
Yeah.
Like, mythical. And even during that ride, like, I think Ivan said to me at some point, he's like, "Oh, do you think we're on for sub 7? And I'm like, no. Like, we're not Ben Dybel or Mark O'Brien. What are you talking about? Like, 2 hours later, we're climbing up Falls Creek, and I'm like, holy shit, I've got like 40 minutes and I can still finish under 7 hours. So, I don't know. I think obviously the type of, maybe it's just the type of people that are turning up is changing. So you've got more engines, because obviously when those guys were setting sub 7s years ago, they were basically doing it by themselves.
Yeah.
And now we had like a train of 20 people riding.
So in between the climbs, are you rotating through? Is it minute turns?
But there's
on
not
the
a
front?
lot. So there's only 2 sections of road between the climbs. The first one between Toowoomba and Hotham, Harrietville, we rode it basically the same as we did last year. We had a group of 20 guys rolling through consistently, like not chopping hard, but just sort of rolling. But then from the top of Hotham to essentially the back of Falls is about a 2 hour-ish or an hour and a half period of time, which is Falls flat downhill. We had a group of 12 who were just rolling through the whole way down. And so we went in that particular segment compared to last year. We went 13 minutes faster. And in fact, my time was top 10 overall, or our time was top 10 overall on that segment all time.
Mm-hmm.
So, we had, and that's also the
chopping
chat.
Off.
Yeah. And you're coming up to the top of Hotham, and as I said, I PB'd it, so I still had to go super deep to get up it. But that's where there is a bit of if you were a little bit ahead, you wait for that next chop off section.
But you're also doing it faster, but if you're in a bigger group, you also potentially are doing less normalized power than you would have in that section.
Correct.
Previous years, and going faster. So you're making up time and saving energy. So it's kind of a double whammy.
Yeah. Thing.
It's quite unique because it's one of the only rides that it's really like a massive challenge for all levels.
All of us. Yep.
Like, no matter who you are, it's going to be hard.
Yep. I've got one complaint about the whole thing. I think this event is getting to the sort of point where we need to rethink the start, because it is a pretty terrifying thing and the way whether it needs to be waived at the start or something like that, because to just send 2,500 people in the dark down Falls Creek of mixed, everyone's in complete mixed abilities, I feel like that's a little bit of asking for trouble at this point. So whether it's like a Highlanders group type thing, like you're waived into what your previous time was, and so that kind of sets you into a start pen that way. Yeah, it's just could be very nasty one year. And I don't think you would enjoy it when you do it next year.
Mm. The technicality of the descent, is it technical?
It's
There's
fast.
a lot of it's very fast, and there's a lot of fast braking corners as well. Like not heavy braking, but fast, like light braking corners, which are pretty like, like you've woken up literally half an hour before, you're going 75 k's an hour around like a semi-blind right-hand corner. You're like kind of a little bit like, what am I doing?
And having people,
all these
around,
people around you as well.
Who
Yeah,
you don't. I wouldn't mind descending around people that I know and trust at 75 k's an hour. But when you don't know their ability, I think that's where it becomes.
What happens at the bottom? So you hit the bottom of the descent, and then are you basically going straight up the next climb?
pretty much. Yeah, almost like within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, so so there's no regroup at the bottom of the descent. It's
No,
like whoever hits the bottom of the descent keeps pushing on.
So the threshold for like if you don't get, and this is the other thing, if you're wanting to set a good time, if you're wanting to be in that front part of the whole race, and you're penned 600 people back, you're not going to get there.
Yeah, you need to be in the
it
first
becomes a
5 rows, 6
shit
rows.
fight.
Otherwise, it's not possible.
Yeah.
You can make your way back on this descent because there's flat bits and climbing bits in the descent. So, like, if you want to push a bit more power, you can probably make up a few extra places because it's not entirely just descending the whole entire time. But that also means that, like, people who are maybe less technically advanced can also, like, get themselves back into the group that is technically advanced, and it means it's a little bit more scary. Like, that sort of happened a little bit last year when we got the KOM down the descent last year, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was full gas. I was just like, I'd just woken up and I'm like, oh my God, we're like,
I don't know, it's weird.
Already.
It felt darker this year.
Yeah.
Like it was really hard to see.
Yeah.
And I had like, I'll get onto this, but like I had a golden like position. I'm like basically the first person to leave.
Yeah.
So I have no complaints. I have no excuses. But yeah, I still found that pretty hairy. Now, can I just address something? I dropped a water bottle, Jesse. I did a Jesse Coyle.
Oh dear.
In fact, someone said that to me. Oh, you did a Jesse Coyle. Dropped a water bottle on the descent. So I'm down not only 80 grams of carbs and hydration, but I'm down a bottle to carry water. Now, on the descent, I couldn't turn around. Like, it just wasn't realistic to even consider turning around. So what do? What would have you done at the time? Were you just pressed on?
You don't run Elite Fly 500 750. You don't run the Elite Fly bidons because they've just fly. They're called the Fly bidons because they fly out of your cages.
They're done. That's it. They're out then. That's fine.
Yeah,
I've never had one come out of that bike. Obviously, had one come out on Dirty Warnie.
Yeah,
but
I reckon it's those bottles. They're so thin. They're so light. They don't grip the cage very well. You need to just run like more sturdy bottles.
Sturdy bottles.
Like
right.
yeah, but ultimately, there's no way of stopping that from happening. It could happen to anyone. Like it is possible, but just run stuff that is a bit more bulletproof. Like saving the grams in the water bottles is probably not worth it.
Good call. What would have you done if you were me on that day? Turned around? Kept going?
No way. You can't turn around.
Can't turn around?
You can't.
turn
You
around?
actually
Okay.
you just can't do it. Because say you do stop, you've got 2,000 more people flying down the hill.
Yep.
If your bottle's on the other side of
Dangerous.
the road, you literally can't. You can't just run
Yeah, it
across the
wouldn't
road.
even be an option.
So Will Badgett dropped a bottle as well. He turned around, went back to it, and his bottle had exploded anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So it
like,
was
what are
like,
you going
what was
back
the
for?
point of
It's
that?
just like, but it's like in a race.
Yeah.
You're not stopping for a bottle in a race. Like, you just gotta let it go.
So obviously I'm thinking like, shit, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And a guy did offer me some gels at the time. I was like, oh yeah, I took some gels off him, extra carbs, and thank you. 4 nootropic gels.
No way.
I was like, I don't know how many nootropic gels this guy was intending to take, but thank you. Probably won't use this. But yes, thank you to him. So up Toowoomba, and I'm kind of looking. So at the top of Toowoomba, there is a little rest stop, but we went too hard. And it was a threshold climb. I thought maybe there might be
Would you even get a bottle?
And I'm
Probably
like,
not.
I started looking at people because I thought maybe I could swing off and do a little like, anyone go? No point. Bombed it down the other side. So then there's that sort of period where you're running into Hotham and you're in that group. And so I'm starting to be that guy. I'm starting to sort of waddle up and down the group. Like, I dropped a bottle. It's annoying. Just seeing if anyone was like, you know what, Chris, have mine. Obviously, long shot, but no, that's all good. But then we start passing people, and this is a I'll get to this, but we start passing just leisure cyclists out riding, okay? Coming the same way, going the other way. So I thought, fuck it. Excuse me. I start asking, do you got a spare? Blah, 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 blah. No. No luck. Literally 400 meters from the base of Hotham, we catch another guy on the side of the road. He starts chatting to someone in our group. And I thought, you never know. Rode up to him, explained the situation. No problems, mate. Gives me his bottle.
Bang.
What was in it?
Some form of mix,
Oh,
but
okay.
it was full, but it was a bottle. So I had a bottle.
Yeah.
So last year, I gave Mark O'Brien shit for getting outside support
Yeah.
from people jumping out of the bushes.
Exactly.
Should Chris Miller be DQ'd
I think so.
for receiving outside support? Maybe this was all
Take the
a
jersey.
big-
Take the jersey off.
Take the jersey off.
Take the
Maybe
jersey
this was
off.
all a big rouse to get me 750 grams lighter up to Wonga to have my unknown friend wait for me further on.
See, if you're a real pro, you would have done what I did last year and start the descent with 3 bottles and have 1 bottle in the back of the jersey for the descent.
Yes.
And then I threw that bottle at the bottom.
There is
of
a spot.
Falls.
There is officially
There's
a spot.
officially a spot where you can litter. There was no littering, but it's an official litter spot.
Yeah.
I started with 3 bottles and I didn't actually throw it because someone had lost their bid on and then I gave it to them.
That is a very good call.
So you start with 3 because then you don't want to touch the 2 precious mixed bottles on the descent.
Yeah.
You want to have just the normal water bottle to like wake you up when you've got cotton mouth in the morning.
Yep.
There you go. That's the pro tip. Put it in the back pocket.
Should I have been DQ'd?
Yes.
No.
No. Oh, fair enough. So anyway, save my life.
If it's not organized help, I think you're good. That's just the will of the people wanted you to carry on that day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And carry on you did.
And he
The glory.
Thank you for that, Jesse. Yeah. So that was my story. Last little piece about this I wanted to do was, so I went and pixel peeped the finish line to have a look at the bikes that crossed in the top 10. So can we go through them?
Yeah.
I don't have pictures, but
Top 10.
Just top 10.
Committed to
bike.
memory.
Fastest ever Peaks Challenge bike. What is it?
So the fastest ever Peaks Challenge bike was a giant Propel.
Oh, not good enough for Edwin.
No,
Not fast enough for me.
running
okay.
carbon creative wheels, and I think he was on a Shimano group set.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good Peaks bike.
Good
So
Peaks bike. Are you sure they're not the Cadex wheels? They're the creative wheels?
No, they were the carbon creative wheels.
Okay. Because last year I think
Chats
he had the
were
Cadex.
Yes,
Yeah.
he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still, that
So
is
24
reigning
rim
fastest.
internals, he said. Not that internal rim width is something we harp on about here.
depth only.
But yes, so second place, an S5. S5, couldn't see the wheels. Jack, you can let us know in the comments if you want. But yeah, just it looked like a pretty bog standard S5. Third place was another Propel, running some Zip Dogs.
Ooh.
One of your mates from that team that we were just discussing. At least he was running that kit. Yeah. And the creakiest bottom bracket known to man.
Good.
That's
That's the motor working.
Third place, fourth place was a Time Alpe d'Huez 2023 frame set, Enve 5.5 wheels, Shimano Duros 12 speed with a dodgy front derailleur, 5440 with an 1134, black int, bar and stem. Weighs at 7.9 kilos.
Oh dear! What's happened there?
I don't know how that's even possible.
The Alpe d'Huez.
I don't know how that's even possible.
Could be called the Poggio or something.
What he's doing to that.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
The Mount Hotham.
Anyway,
Oh, no.
the man riding that has watts to burn, and weight's not an issue for him. But
Well
there you go.
engineered though.
Well
Yeah,
engineered.
beautiful. Beautiful.
Oh my god, the
Carbon
tolerance.
layout.
Oh,
It is.
French
They are
layout
beautiful.
for days. Fifth was an S5 with reserve wheels. Sixth, the Dogma F 2025 edition with Enve 6 point, the big boys.
6.7s.
6.7s.
Web.
Yeah, wet bike.
Wep.
That was my bike of the bunch.
Yeah.
That was in there. So what was that? That was sixth. Seventh place was Giant TCR.
Okay.
You probably know who owns that.
Ah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Team bikes. I'm not sure this gets just because the good thing about these bikes is they're all chosen by the person who rode them, as opposed to that Giant TCR, which is a team bike. Then we've got a Cannondale Super 6.
Mm-hmm.
What wheels do does he run?
I think he was running either reserves or zips. I'm not too sure,
Okay.
but that's got a big stem, 160 mil.
That's the big boy.
Big stem.
Another giant propel.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. That was 7th. 8th, another giant propel.
What? What is going?
This was honestly,
this is a
they
giant
are
ad.
Like.
They're
This was
like
what it was like.
pennies on the dollar in Australia.
Unbelievable.
The pricing is like 2/3 of anything else.
Yeah.
It's just-
not
I
surprising.
reckon next year we're looking at Factor's top 10.
You think?
Top 10 year, like 2026 year of the Factor. Everyone's going to have one.
No, it's just such a such a good value. I know
No, I just think
It
it's
is a great
value. I don't
value.
think
It's a
people are
great
buying it
value.
because they think it's the best bike that's
Yeah.
ever
It
been made.
is a fantastic value.
It's just you're tossing them up. You're like, I don't want to pay
Yeah.
4 extra grand.
Yeah,
and that was a giant propel with zips with 404s.
But zips don't come stock on a Propel, do
No,
they?
but you do
No.
see it a
Are
lot.
these people aftermarket buying zips?
But not many people that are actually proper hitters are going to, like, if you're a proper hitter, you're probably going to have a custom bike. So you're probably going to buy a frame and then have all your original stuff
Right.
ordered over.
But
You don't
most people choose. A lot of people
And they
choose
like
zips.
zips.
you
choose
don't
the
you don't
zips.
see a lot of people riding the Cadex wheels.
No,
They're too
agree with
narrow.
that.
They're loud. They're way too loud.
Mm.
And yeah, like not a lot of people are running the Cadexes. I feel like when you buy a Propel, you're like, oh, I've got these Cadex wheels included. I'm just going to flog them on Bicycle Market for $1 trillion, and then have the ad sit there for 6 months.
And 10th was Will on an S5 with reserves.
Nice. Okay.
Yep. So there you go. Comment down below if you ran a rim brake bike, and you think you finished. Because I went as far down. I went to about 30th, and I couldn't find one. So let me know. I'd like to know where the first rim brake finisher
Next
was.
year, I'm going to run a steel bike,
Steel
and
bike?
we're going to go top 10.
Okay.
Mm.
Top 10 steel bike.
Sub 6.
Sub 6, top 10,
Mm.
steel bike. Done.
Very good. So that's it. Bicycle Network. Three
Mm.
Peaks, Jesse Coyle, 2026 in. It's on.
I'm in for next year.
Yep.
Should get some more time back. Train up. Yeah,
Very
I'll be
good.
there. Yep. It's a cult Peaks challenge.
Mm.
I'm not in the cult.
No.
It is a cult.
It's if you're
It's a
doing
cult,
it,
yeah.
it's like
It's a whole
that's
thing.
why it's such a
It's
good
whole thing.
reference saying it's like an Iron Man. Like you could get the Bicycle Network tattoo now.
Mm.
I would not be surprised.
Mm.
Like
And
it's
Lee Turner.
seriously. Yeah.
It's kind of like, I agree. It's become the Australian, like Unbound or whatever, the bucket list
Mm.
thing, which is cool. It's good to have one in Australia, definitely.
Yeah.
And Bicycle Network is not for profit. So it's kind of cool that they're the lot that have, it's not like some promoter,
Mm.
it's just a not for profit organization. All right, Ed, thank you very much. Last time there were people who were counting how many times you said like.
I've improved.
And so
I've improved
let us
majorly.
know. I want a full count.
I want to, someone make a reel,
Yeah.
a like count reel,
like count reel.
please.
Very good. No, thank you very much for coming along. Really appreciate
Thanks for
it.
having me.
And thank you for your time, Jesse.
No, thanks for having me on, Chris. It's been
we
a
won't
pleasure.
see you next week.
No.
We won't see you next
Holiday time. Thanks for coming on, Edwin. Great
No
to
worries,
chat with
Jesse.
you.
week. See you guys.